Lily, a beautiful and arrogant girl, always saw herself as the center of attention, mocking Alex, the chubby and shy boy, as the subject of her jokes. But when a cruel prank left Alex humiliated in front of everyone, he vowed to change everything. 3 years later, at a high school reunion, Alex showed up transformed, stunning everyone. But the most shocking twist came when Lily, once the queen of the school, found herself trapped in a disastrous situation, a debt to an old farmer that forced her into an arranged marriage. Will Alex be able to help Lily find her true worth and get a second chance, or will she remain lost in her arrogance and pain? From revenge to redemption, their story is a powerful lesson in love, change, and patience. He was humiliated by the girl he loved. 2 years later, he did something terrible to get revenge. You will never imagine what he did. Alex was a 17-year-old boy who weighed 220 libs. At school, some mean students called him cruel names and made fun of him all the time. He often felt lonely and sad, but there was one person who always made his heart skip. Lily, the most beautiful girl in the whole school. Alex had a big crush on her, but he never thought she would notice him. One day, something unbelievable happened. Lily invited Alex to a party at her house. Alex was so excited he couldn't believe it. He thought, this must be my chance. He wanted to make a great impression on her, so he rented a fancy suit and even borrowed a luxury car. He wanted everything to be perfect. In his excitement, Alex also borrowed money from his friends to buy expensive gifts for Lily. He imagined how happy she would be when he gave her the gifts. His heart was filled with hope, thinking, maybe this is the start of something special. When the day of the party came, Alex was nervous but happy. He dressed in his new suit and drove the luxury car to Lily's house. The house was full of students and everyone was having fun. Alex smiled shyly as he handed Lily the gifts he had bought for her. But then something strange happened. Lily and her friends started laughing. Alex felt his stomach twist in knots. Why are they laughing? He thought. Just then Lily stood up and called for everyone's attention. Alex's heart raced with excitement and fear. He thought she was about to say something sweet, but instead her words cut through him like a knife. "It was all a bet," Lily said with a cruel smile. "We wanted to see if I could go out with the ugliest boy in school." The room burst into laughter. Alex's heart shattered. His legs felt weak, and his face turned red. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. This can't be happening, he thought. He wanted to disappear, to melt away into nothing. As if that wasn't enough, Lily's real boyfriend stepped out from behind the crowd. He looked Alex up and down and sneered. "Do you really think you could ever afford someone as pretty as Lily?" Alex's eyes widened. His heart pounded in his chest, and tears filled his eyes. The laughter grew louder and louder, ringing in his ears. He couldn't take it anymore. Covering his face in shame, he turned and ran out of the party as fast as he could. As he ran, Alex's mind swirled with anger and humiliation. He had been crushed, and all his dreams of Lily had been destroyed in front of everyone. But deep down, something dark started to grow inside of him, a burning desire for revenge. When Alex got home after the party, he locked his door and cried until his eyes were swollen. His heart ached with pain and embarrassment. He picked up his phone, hoping to find some comfort, but it only made things worse. Clips of the party were all over social media, and everyone was making fun of him. Alex felt like the whole world was laughing at him. His face burned with shame, but something deeper started to grow inside of him. Anger. "I will get my revenge," he whispered to himself. For 2 whole weeks Alex didn't go to school. He switched off his phone and shut himself away. Not even his few friends could reach him. He spent his days thinking about what happened and how to get back at Lily and everyone who laughed at him. He was too ashamed to face anyone, but he couldn't hide forever. 2 weeks later, Alex decided to go back to school, but he didn't want anyone to recognize him. He went to the market and bought a mask to cover his face. He thought maybe, just maybe, the mask would help him hide from the cruel stares and laughs. When Alex walked into the classroom, his heart was pounding. He hoped no one would notice him, but as soon as he stepped inside, the room exploded with laughter. The sound of Lily's loud laugh echoed through the halls, so loud that students in the next class could hear her. Alex felt so small, so embarrassed. He wanted to run out of the room, but how long could he keep running? He kept his head down and sat quietly at his desk, hoping the laughter would stop. But it didn't. Lily and her friends started laughing even harder. "He's wearing a mask!" one of them shouted as they laughed and pointed at Alex. He felt tears burning in his eyes, but he refused to cry in front of them again. One of Lily's friends, Sandra, smirked and decided to take the joke even further. She walked toward Alex, reaching out to pull off his mask. Alex froze, feeling his heart race with fear. He didn't know what to do, but then something unexpected happened. Grace, a quiet girl from the back of the class, suddenly grabbed Sandra's hand, stopping her from touching Alex. Grace was one of the few poor students in the school and had gotten in through a scholarship. Her mom worked as a housekeeper in Lily's house. Grace knew the pain of being mocked and couldn't watch them humiliate Alex anymore. "Leave him alone," Grace said in a strong voice. The whole class went silent for a moment, surprised by her bravery. Grace stared at Sandra and Lily, her eyes full of anger. "Aren't you tired of making fun of him?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly but full of courage. Lily's face twisted with annoyance. She wasn't used to anyone standing up to her. "Shut up," Lily snapped. "You have the guts to talk to us? I should tell the whole class that your mom works as a poor housekeeper in my house." The class erupted into laughter again. Grace's face turned red with shame. She had never wanted to get into trouble with Lily, but she couldn't stand by and watch Alex get humiliated. Some of the students mumbled that Lily had gone too far, but nobody dared to speak up. When school ended that day, Alex caught up with Grace as she walked home. He felt a mix of gratitude and guilt. "Thank you," he said softly. "Thank you for standing up for me. I'm sorry about what Lily said to you and about your mom." Grace gave a small, sad smile. "It's okay," she said. "I'm used to it." Alex looked at her, feeling ashamed of himself for once liking Lily. He couldn't believe how cruel she really was. Can we be friends?" Alex asked hesitantly. Grace smiled warmly. "Why not?" she said. They exchanged contact information and began walking together. Just then, a fancy car pulled up, and Alex recognized it as Lily's. The driver got out and called for Grace. Alex looked confused. "Is that Lily's driver?" he asked. Grace sighed. "Yes, but I'm not getting in." "What do you mean?" Alex asked, surprised. "You're going the same way, right?" Grace nodded. "Yes, we live in the same house, but I don't ride with her. I go to help my mom with the chores first. Lily never lets me sit in the car with her, even though her dad told the driver to take us both home since we go to the same school." Alex's jaw dropped. He couldn't believe it. Lily was even crueler than he had thought. She refused to let Grace, whose mother worked hard in her house, ride in the same car with her. Alex watched the car drive away and felt a deep anger rising in his chest. How could someone be so heartless? He had once had a crush on Lily, but now all he felt was disgust. Just as Alex and Grace were finishing their conversation, Alex's driver arrived. Alex smiled and turned to Grace. "Hey, do you want a ride? We can drop you off at your house." Grace's face lit up with surprise and happiness. She wasn't used to people offering her kindness like this. "Really? That would be great," she said, feeling grateful. She hopped into the car and they drove off. As the car pulled up in front of Lily's big fancy house, Grace thanked Alex once again and got out. "Take care, Grace," Alex said as the car drove away. Grace waved, feeling a bit of warmth in her heart despite the rough day. But the moment she stepped into the house, that warm feeling vanished. The first thing she saw was the sitting room flooded with dirty water. Her mom was on her knees scrubbing the floor, her eyes red from crying. "Mom!" Grace rushed to her. "What happened? Who poured all this water here?" Her mother looked up, her face full of sadness, tears streaming down her cheeks. She tried to wipe them away, but more kept coming. "It was Lily," she said, her voice trembling. "She got home a few minutes ago and started pouring water all over the place. I tried to stop her, but she didn't listen." She just kept calling me a poor cleaner and said awful things. Grace's heart filled with anger. She knew exactly why Lily had done this. It was because of what happened at school earlier. Lily was punishing her by humiliating her mom. Grace clenched her fists. She couldn't believe how cruel Lily could be. "I'm going to talk to her," Grace said, standing up angrily. "She can't treat you like this." Just then, a cold laugh echoed from the stairs. Grace froze and looked up. There was Lily, standing at the top of the stairs with a cruel smile on her face. She folded her arms and looked down at them like they were nothing. "Next time, you'll learn to respect the hands that feed you," Lily said in a mocking voice. Then, without warning, she picked up a bucket filled with more water and threw it down the stairs. The water splashed all over the sitting room, making the mess even worse. Some of it splashed onto Grace's shoes and clothes. Grace's body shook with anger. She wanted to run up those stairs and confront Lily. She wanted to yell at her, make her feel the same hurt she was causing. But just as Grace was about to charge up the stairs, her mother grabbed her arm. "Please, Grace, don't," her mother begged, her voice weak. "It's not worth it." Grace stopped in her tracks, tears filling her eyes. She felt powerless, trapped. Lily had all the control, and there was nothing they could do. Grace's heart ached as she looked at her mother, who was still kneeling on the floor, tired and broken from all the cleaning. She couldn't hold it in anymore. She burst into tears, sobbing so hard that her whole body trembled. Her mother pulled her close, hugging her tightly. "It's okay, my child," her mother whispered, even though she was crying too. "We'll get through this." But as Grace cried in her mother's arms, she made a silent promise to herself. She wouldn't let Lily get away with this forever. One day things would change. As Grace and her mom were finishing up the cleaning, Lily was up to something sneaky. While they were busy, Lily quietly went to the kitchen where Grace's mom kept her bag. She peeked inside, found the house key, and with a sly grin she slipped the key into her pocket. Then she tiptoed back upstairs without anyone noticing. Later that night, Grace and her mom were completely exhausted from all the hard work. They left Lily's house, dragging their tired feet, wanting nothing more than to get home and rest. But when they reached their front door, they realized something terrible. They didn't have the key. "Oh no, where's the key?" Grace's mom asked, her voice full of worry. Grace's eyes widened in panic. "Maybe we forgot it at Lily's house," she said, her heart sinking. "I'll go back and get it, Mom. Just wait here." Grace quickly hailed a taxi and rushed back to Lily's house. It was late, and the streets were dark and quiet. As she got closer to the house, her stomach felt uneasy, but she was determined to find the key. When she got to the front door, Grace was about to knock, but suddenly heard voices coming from the living room. It was Lily's parents, Mr. Michael and Mrs. Linda talking. Grace froze. She didn't want them to see her yet, so she ducked behind a corner and listened carefully. "She's out of control, Mrs." Linda's voice sounded angry. "Lily spent so much money on that party. Do you know she even borrowed money without telling us?" Grace's heart raced as she listened. "Mr. Michael sighed deeply. "None of our kids have given us this much trouble. We regret the day we took her in after her real mother died." Grace gasped silently, her eyes wide with shock. What did they just say? She thought. "Lily isn't their real daughter, Mr. Michael continued. "We've done everything for her, but she's been nothing but trouble." Grace couldn't believe what she was hearing. Lily wasn't their real daughter. Her mind raced, trying to understand. She felt sorry for Lily, but also confused by all the cruelty she had shown. Just then, Grace realized she needed to act normal. She knocked on the door and waited. When Mrs. Linda opened the door, Grace pretended she hadn't heard anything. "Good evening, ma'am," Grace said politely. "I think I forgot my mom's key here earlier." Mrs. Linda looked at her with tired eyes. "Oh, the key? Let me help you look for it." They searched around the living room and kitchen, but the key was nowhere to be found. Grace knew Lily must have taken it, but she didn't say anything. After a while, she left the house empty-handed, her mind still spinning from the secret she had overheard. On her way back home, Grace couldn't stop thinking about what Mr. Michael had said. Lily isn't their real daughter. She repeated it in her mind over and over. The girl who had caused so much trouble wasn't even part of their family by blood. When Grace finally reached home, her mom was waiting outside, shivering from the cold night air. "Did you find the key?" her mom asked, her voice hopeful. Grace shook her head sadly. "No, Mom, it wasn't there." Her mom sighed in disappointment. It was very late, and they had no other place to go. With no choice, they had to sit outside in the corridor of their house. The night was cold, and they hugged themselves to keep warm. As they sat there, the sky grew darker, and soon heavy rain started to pour. The rain came down in sheets, soaking Grace and her mom. They curled up in the corner, their bodies trembling from the cold. Their clothes were drenched, and they had no shelter to protect them. Grace could feel her mom shivering beside her, and tears welled up in her eyes. She wished she could do something, anything, to make the situation better. But all they could do was sit there, cold and wet, through the long, stormy night. Back at school, Lily's behavior was getting worse. Every day she became even ruder, bullying her classmates and showing no respect for the teachers. No one could stand up to her, and she seemed to enjoy the fear she caused. Her laughter echoed in the halls whenever she made someone feel small. One day, Alex went to visit his cousin Ryan. Ryan was a rising singer and was slowly becoming famous. As they hung out, Ryan showed Alex something on his phone, a new song he was working on. While they were talking, a notification popped up on Ryan's screen. Alex glanced at it and was stunned. The message said, "Hi, I'm one of your biggest fans. Please reply me." Alex looked closer and saw who it was from. It was Lily, the same girl who had made his life miserable. He couldn't believe it. Lily, he thought. The same Lily who's always acting like she's better than everyone. Ryan noticed Alex's expression. "Do you know her?" he asked, curious. "Yeah," Alex replied, his voice filled with surprise. "She's my classmate." Ryan raised his eyebrows, a bit amused. "Well, it looks like she's a big fan of mine," he said, showing Alex the long list of messages Lily had sent. Alex laughed. He couldn't believe his eyes. Lily, with all her pride and ego, had been sending Ryan messages for months, without getting any replies. "This is unbelievable," Alex said, shaking his head. Lily begging for attention. An idea popped into Alex's mind. He looked at Ryan with a grin. "Cousin, can you do me a favor? Let me reply to her." Ryan smiled and handed Alex his phone. "Go ahead, let's see what happens." Alex quickly typed a reply, pretending to be Ryan. He sent her a WhatsApp contact and said, "Here, message me here, and we'll chat." Within minutes, Lily sent a flood of messages to Alex, thinking she was talking to Ryan, the famous singer. She had no idea it was actually Alex, the boy she had humiliated in front of the entire school. Alex watched the messages pour in. She was being so polite, so different from the arrogant girl at school. Lily was begging for a response, telling Ryan how much she admired him and loved his music. As Alex read the messages, he couldn't help but smile. "She has no clue it's me," he thought. "The girl who once destroyed my confidence is now desperate for my attention, all because she thinks I'm someone else." Before Alex went to bed that night, he thought about his next move. "This could be my chance to teach her a lesson," he thought. The next day at school, Lily was as rude as ever. She strutted around the hallways, acting like she owned the place. After Alex, pretending to be Ryan, started chatting with Lily, things took an unexpected turn. Lily couldn't stop talking about the upcoming school prom. It was a huge event where all the students came with their dates, dressed in fancy clothes, and danced the night away. Lily, excited about the prom, sent a message to Ryan. "There's a prom coming up at my school. It's going to be amazing," she typed, smiling as she imagined herself arriving with the popular singer. Alex, grinning at his phone, responded, "Would you like me to come to the prom with you?" Lily's heart skipped a beat. Without thinking twice, she quickly replied, "Yes, yes, I'd love that." She was so happy. She thought about how everyone would be shocked when they saw her arriving with Ryan, the famous rising star. She couldn't wait to show off. Meanwhile, in school, all the students were buzzing with excitement. Everyone was talking about the prom, Couples were preparing together, planning their outfits, and practicing their dance moves. The students without partners were frantically looking for dates, hoping to find someone before the big night. But Alex, with his big body and awkward appearance, had a hard time finding someone to go with. Whenever he asked a girl, they would turn him down, laughing at him behind his back. It was the same story with Grace, the girl who had stood up for Alex before. No one wanted to go to the prom with her because she was poor. It was a sad, sad situation for both of them. Feeling lonely and left out, Alex couldn't bear it any longer. He decided to ask Grace to be his prom date. Nervously, he approached her after school. "Grace," he said shyly, "would you like to go to the prom with me?" Grace, surprised and touched by his offer, smiled warmly. "Yes, Alex," she replied. "I'd love to go with you." Alex felt a wave of relief and happiness. He finally had a date for the prom. But things weren't so simple for Lily. She now had 2 dates, her boyfriend and Ryan. Even though she was supposed to go with her boyfriend, she wanted to make a statement. She craved attention and always liked setting new standards. Lily broke up with her boyfriend a few days before the prom. "You're no longer on my level," she told him coldly. "I need someone better." Her boyfriend was heartbroken. He had already prepared everything for the prom, imagining they would have a perfect night together. He couldn't believe that Lily, the girl he cared for so much, would leave him like this. Lily, on the other hand, didn't care about his feelings. She was too focused on her dream of walking into the prom with the popular singer Ryan. She wanted to be the center of attention, the girl everyone talked about. Alex and Grace began spending a lot of time together. Grace saw how sad Alex was about the prom, so she came up with an idea. She decided to help Alex get in shape and boost his confidence. Grace was always supportive, and that made Alex feel special. They started working out every day after school. Grace even put Alex on a special diet, telling him what to eat and when. Alex took the workouts very seriously, more than anyone could imagine. He couldn't believe how lucky he was to have someone like Grace by his side. At first, they were just pretending to be each other's dates for the prom, but as they spent more time together, something changed. They started liking each other. Every time Grace cheered him on, Alex felt happier. He worked out harder and harder, all because Grace believed in him. Grace would say, "You can do it, Alex. Don't give up." Her words made him push himself even more. As the prom got closer, Alex began to look and feel different. His clothes fit better, and his face was full of energy. Grace was proud of how hard Alex was working, and Alex realized how much Grace meant to him. But Alex still had to keep up the act with Lily. A few days before the prom, pretending to be Ryan, Alex sent a message to Lily. "Hey, I'm really sorry, but I don't think I can make it to the prom. My car got into an accident and it's in the shop. I don't know if it'll be fixed in time." Lily quickly replied, "Oh no, don't worry about it. I can provide a car and I'll take care of everything for the prom. You just have to show up." Lily was determined to go to the prom with Ryan no matter what. What it took, she wanted to show everyone that she could have the best date and the most glamorous entrance. But she knew that getting ready for the prom would cost a lot of money, and she didn't want to ask her parents for it. So Lily did. While her mom was out, Lily did something sneaky. She quietly went into her mother's room and stole 2 of her most expensive necklaces, shiny and made of pure gold, things her mom cherished. Lily quickly sold one of the necklaces for a lot of money and hid the other one in her room. With the money she got from selling the necklace, Lily planned to rent a fancy car and buy the most beautiful dress she could find. She smiled to herself, thinking about how everyone would be watching her on prom night. The day before the prom, excitement filled the air at school. Everyone was talking about their outfits, their dates, and how amazing the party was going to be. But at Lily's house, something terrible was happening. Lily's mum had just returned home from a shopping trip when she noticed something was wrong. She went to her room to get ready for the big event, but couldn't find her 2 most expensive necklaces. She searched every drawer, every box, but they were gone. Panic filled her heart. "Where are my necklaces?" she wondered aloud. Lily, who was in the living room pretending to be busy, heard her mother's voice and rushed in. "Mom, are you okay?" she asked, acting all concerned. "My necklaces! I can't find them anywhere," her mom replied, clearly worried. Lily's eyes gleamed with a sly idea. She saw this as the perfect chance to blame Grace's mom for the missing necklaces. "Mom," she said, "I think I know what happened. Earlier today I saw Grace's mom sneaking into your room. I didn't think much of it then, but now I'm sure she stole the necklaces." Her mom gasped, shocked at the accusation. "Are you sure? Lily, this is a serious matter." "Yes, Mom. I saw her with my own eyes," Lily said, pretending to be certain. "You should check her bag. She might still have the necklaces with her." Lily's mother was horrified. She had always trusted Grace's mum, but now she wasn't so sure. With Lily pushing her, she reluctantly agreed to search her bag. When Grace's mum arrived at Lily's house to help with the evening chores, she had no idea what was waiting for her. Lily's mom asked her to come into the living room. She looked worried, and Grace's mom felt confused. "Mrs. Johnson, is something wrong?" Grace's mom asked, concerned. Lily stepped forward, her voice sharp. "We think you took something that doesn't belong to you," she said coldly. "Open your bag. We want to see what's inside." Grace's mom froze. "What? No, I didn't take anything," she cried, tears already filling her eyes. "I would never do such a thing." But Lily insisted. "I saw you sneaking into my mom's room. You stole her necklaces." Lily's mom, although hesitant, felt she had no choice. She gently asked Grace's mom to open her bag with trembling hands. Grace's mom did as she was told. Her heart was pounding in her chest, and she felt so scared and hurt. She had worked for this family for years, and now they thought she was a thief. Lily's mom started going through the bag, and then something shocking happened. At the very bottom of the bag she found one of the missing necklaces. How did this get here?" Grace's mom gasped, completely stunned. "I swear I didn't take it." Tears streamed down her face, but no one seemed to believe her. Lily stood there, hiding her smirk. She had sneaked the necklace into Grace's mom's bag earlier that day, knowing this moment would come. She wanted to make sure the blame didn't fall on her. "Where's the second necklace?" Lily's mom demanded, her voice now filled with anger. "If you took this one, then you must have the other." Grace's mom, sobbing, shook her head. "I don't have it. I don't know where it is." "That's not good enough," Lily snapped. "If you don't give back the second necklace, we'll have to call the police." Before long, Lily's mom, heartbroken and believing her daughter, called the authorities. Grace's mom was arrested, even though she kept insisting she was innocent. The police took her away, and Grace, who had come to see her mom after hearing the commotion, could only watch in horror as her mother was taken. "Mom, I know you didn't do it. I know you're innocent," Grace cried. But it was too late. The police car drove away, and Grace was left standing outside Lily's house, crying uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Lily stood inside, watching from the window, feeling victorious. The long-awaited day had finally arrived. It was prom night, and the air was filled with excitement. Students were dressed in their best outfits, and everyone was talking about who would come with whom. Lily stood in front of the mirror in her room, admiring herself. She looked stunning in her luxurious, glittering gown, her hair perfectly done. She smiled at her reflection, feeling like the queen of the night. But something was bothering her. Ryan hadn't picked up any of her calls. She had called him over and over again, but there was no answer. Why isn't he answering? She wondered. Just when she was about to give up, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Ryan. "Meet me at the school." "I'll be there soon." Lily let out a sigh of relief. She grabbed her expensive purse and headed to her car, the one she rented using the money from selling her mom's necklace. She drove to the school, her heart racing with excitement. Tonight is going to be perfect, she thought. When she arrived at the school, the prom had already started. The hall was beautifully decorated with twinkling lights everywhere. Couples were arriving with their dates, and music filled the air. Everyone looked amazing, but Lily wasn't interested in them. She was waiting for Ryan. As the minutes passed, Lily kept checking her phone, worried. Where is he? She wondered. Then, finally, her phone buzzed again. "I'm here," the message from Ryan said. Lily's heart skipped a beat. She quickly left the hall and walked outside to meet him. But when she saw him, her heart sank. Ryan was standing there, but something was off. He was wearing a long coat that covered his entire body and a mask that hid his face. "Why are you dressed like this?" Lily asked, confused. "It's a surprise," Ryan replied, his voice low. "I want to make a grand entrance." Lily smiled, feeling excited again. "Okay," she said. "Let's go inside." They walked through the hallway, and people started to stare. Everyone was whispering and murmuring, curious to know who Lily's new date was. Her ex-boyfriend, who was standing with his friends, looked heartbroken. He couldn't wait to see the guy Lily had chosen over him. Lily and Ryan reached the stage, and the room grew silent. All eyes were on them. Lily, feeling proud, held Ryan's hand tightly as they stood on the stage. "Reveal yourself," someone from the crowd shouted. Lily smiled and looked at Ryan. "It's time," she whispered, her heart pounding with excitement. Ryan slowly reached for his mask, and everyone watched in anticipation. But when the mask came off, the entire room gasped. It wasn't Ryan standing there on the stage. It was an old homeless man with missing teeth and a scruffy beard. His clothes were ragged under the coat, and his face looked dirty. Lily screamed in horror as the crowd burst into laughter. People were pointing at her, laughing so hard they were nearly crying. Her ex-boyfriend was laughing the loudest, and even her so-called best friends were giggling. Lily felt like the ground had been pulled out from under her. Embarrassed and humiliated, she ran off the stage, tears streaming down her face. She didn't stop running until she reached the parking lot, where she saw Alex and Grace arriving. But something was different. Alex, who used to be teased for his looks, now looked stunning. He was fit, his clothes were stylish, and he had a confident smile on his face. Grace, too, looked incredible. Her dress was beautiful, and she looked like a princess. Lily could hardly recognize them. As she rushed past them, she heard people whispering about how great Alex and Grace looked. Everyone was admiring them. But Lily didn't care anymore. She was too ashamed to even think clearly. She jumped into the rented car and sped off, tears blurring her vision. Lily wasn't paying attention to the road. She was so upset that she didn't notice the tree in front of her until it was too late. The car slammed into the tree with a loud crash. The luxurious car she rented was now completely ruined. Shaking, Lily got out of the car and realized what she had done. She had crashed the car, a car she couldn't afford to pay for. Her heart raced as she thought about how much trouble she was in. When she finally made it home, she tried to open the door, but it was locked. She knocked and knocked, but no one answered. Desperate, she called her mom. No answer. She called again, and then a message popped up on her phone. It was from her dad. "We're done, Lily. Go back to your grandma. We're tired of you." The message said. Lily's world crumbled. She couldn't believe what she was reading. Her parents had found out about the necklace. Alex had told them everything, with proof. They knew she had sold it to pay for the prom. They knew she had caused so much trouble for them. Lily broke down in tears on the doorstep. She remembered how her parents had taken her in after her mom, who had worked as their house help, passed away. They had given her everything, but all she had done was cause them pain. And now it was too late to fix anything. Lily knew she had to go back to her poor old grandma in the village. She would have to drop out of school. On top of that, she had a debt to pay for the car she wrecked. She wished she could go back in time and make things right, but it was too late. Everything was ruined. As she sat there, crying under the moonlit sky, Lily realized that her choices had led her to this moment. She had lost everything in chasing the sparkle of others. Lily had lost sight of her own light. He was humiliated by the girl he loved for being fat and ugly. 3 years later, he did something terrible to get revenge. You will never imagine what he did. 3 years after they graduated from high school, the students were having a reunion. When the high school reunion came, Alex arrived in a shiny, expensive car. He looked nothing like the boy they used to mock. His friend Grace, the only one who stood by him in school, sat beside him, both of them looking stunning. As Alex stepped out, people gasped. Whispers filled the air. "Is that Alex?" they murmured in disbelief. Alex walked into the hall, his presence commanding attention. He looked around, but couldn't find Lily, the girl who had humiliated him years ago. After the reunion party, he stood up. "Where is Lily?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Silence fell over the crowd. Everyone looked away, not daring to meet his eyes. The guilt of how they had treated him seemed to weigh heavily on them. Finally, Hannah, one of Lily's close friends from school, broke the silence. She couldn't make it," Hannah stammered, her voice shaky. Alex's eyes narrowed. "Why not?" he demanded. Hannah's face paled. "Lily is in the village with her grandmother," she whispered. The crowd murmured. Lily? The billionaire's daughter in a village? Wasn't she supposed to be studying at Oxford or Harvard? Alex's heart raced. Something wasn't right. "Take me to her village," he said, his voice strong and determined. Without hesitation, Hannah agreed. Alex, Grace, and Hannah got into the car, and the rest of the classmates, curious about what Alex would do next, followed. Some drove their cars, while others climbed into a bus, all wondering why the once almighty Lily didn't show up. As they began their journey to the village, tension filled the air. Everyone wanted to know what Alex had planned, what had become of Lily, and most importantly, what was Alex going to do when he finally faced her? The road stretched ahead, full of mystery, suspense, and unanswered questions. Alex, Grace, Hannah, and the rest of their classmates drove through a thick forest. The road was narrow and quiet, with tall trees whose shadows danced on the ground as they passed. It felt eerie, but no one said a word. Everyone wondered why Lily, the once rich and proud girl, was now living in such a remote place. Finally, they arrived in a small, poor village. The houses were simple, made of wood and mud. It didn't look like the kind of place a billionaire's daughter would be. They headed straight to Lily's grandmother's house, a tiny house with cracked walls and an old roof. When they reached the house, the door was locked. Alex knocked, but no one answered. They looked around and saw a neighbor nearby. "We're looking for Lily," Alex said. The neighbor squinted at them. "Who are you people?" she asked. "We're her classmates," Grace replied. The neighbor paused, then sighed. "Lily isn't here. She's at the church. Today is her wedding." Everyone froze. Lily getting married? Alex's heart started beating faster. "Can you show us the way to the church?" he asked, trying to hide his emotions. The neighbor nodded and gave them directions. Without wasting any time, they all rushed back to their cars and headed to the church. The small village church was old, with broken windows and faded walls. As they walked inside, the air felt heavy with tension. The room was filled with a few villagers, and there at the front of the church stood Lily in a simple wedding dress. But something was strange. Beside her was an old man, wrinkled and much older than anyone expected. Lily was holding a ring, about to marry the old man. She turned her head and her eyes met Alex's. She froze, her breath caught in her throat. There, walking in with his classmates behind him, was Alex. He looked so different, so strong and handsome, unlike the boy she used to laugh at. Her hands began to shake, and without realizing it, she dropped the ring. The room went silent. Everyone stared at Lily, but she couldn't move. Her face turned pale, and shame washed over her like a wave. She felt small, trapped, her eyes filled with tears as she looked at Alex, unable to face him. The shame was too much to bear. Suddenly, without saying a word, Lily turned and ran out of the church, her wedding dress trailing behind her. The villagers gasped, while Alex stood still, watching her leave. The classmates whispered to each other, unsure of what would happen next. Everyone in the church was in shock. Even the old man who was about to marry Lily and the priest. They whispered, "What's going on?" Lily's heart was racing as she ran outside, her face burning with shame. She couldn't believe what had just happened. How did they get here, she thought, her mind spinning. She never imagined a day like this would come. Once the proud daughter of a billionaire, now brought so low. Just then Grace ran after her, determined to catch up. "Stop, Lily!" Grace shouted as she reached the back of the church. Lily finally stopped, her face wet with tears. She turned, her eyes filled with sadness. "How did you all find me?" Lily asked, her voice breaking as more tears rolled down her cheeks. She couldn't hold it in any longer. She sat on the ground, crying as guilt and regret washed over her. Memories flooded her mind, how she had treated Grace and her mother so badly, how she had stolen a necklace and blamed Grace's mom for it when they worked at her old mansion. She also remembered how she had made fun of Alex and bullied her classmates. Now, she wished she could go back in time to fix all the terrible things she had done. Grace knelt closer to Lily, her heart heavy with sadness. "What happened, Lily?" she asked softly, her voice filled with worry. "I knew your parents disowned you, but I didn't know things had gotten this bad." Just then, Alex walked up, his footsteps slow and steady. His presence made Lily's heart sink even lower, and she could barely look at him. Alex had every reason to hate her for all the terrible things she had done in the past, but right now, all she felt was shame. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for everything I did to you and Grace." Alex didn't say a word. He stood there silently, his face unreadable. It made Lily feel even worse. She wondered if he would ever forgive her. Grace, still by Lily's side, looked deeply into Lily's eyes, her confusion growing. "But why are you marrying that old man?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with curiosity. "There has to be more to this." Lily wiped at her tears, her voice trembling as she began to explain. "After Mr. Michael and his wife kicked me out, I had nowhere to go. They weren't my real parents, you know. My mom. She worked as a housekeeper in their home. She got pregnant, and the man who got her pregnant disappeared. He never came back." Grace listened closely, her heart aching as she pictured little Lily growing up without her real father. "When I was just 3 years old, my mom died from sickness. I barely remember her," Lily continued, her eyes far away, as if she were lost in the memory. "Mr. Michael and his wife felt sorry for me. They adopted me. They gave me everything, everything a girl like me could ever want. But I don't know why I kept pushing them away. I was angry, and I didn't know how to stop. I hurt them over and over." Lily's tears flowed faster now, and she buried her face in her hands. "One day they couldn't take it anymore. I was sent away. I lost everything." Grace, feeling the weight of Lily's story, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Lily," she whispered, unsure of what else to say. Lily sniffled and looked up, her voice shaky. "When I came back to the village, I thought someone might help me, but nobody did. Everyone turned their backs on me. I had no friends, no money, nothing." Her voice cracked as she remembered the pain of being alone. "And then the worst thing happened." Grace's eyes widened. "What happened?" "The company that rented me the car I crashed on prom night, they found me." Lily's voice broke with fear. "They arrested me. They said I had to pay for the damages, but I didn't have anything to give them. My grandma, she's the only one who tried to help. She didn't have enough money either, but she did everything she could." The group of classmates standing nearby exchanged uneasy glances, still in shock at how much Lily had been through. Even Alex's stern expression softened, though he stayed silent. Lily continued, her voice trembling even more. "Grandma borrowed money from an old farmer. She thought it would help us pay off the car company, but it wasn't enough. We couldn't pay the farmer back. And now he's forcing me to marry him." Grace gasped. "What? He's forcing you to marry him?" Lily nodded slowly, her body shaking with each sob. "He said if I don't marry him, he'll make sure I go back to jail. I have no choice." She wiped her tear-soaked face, but the tears kept coming. "I've tried everything to pay him back, but nothing worked. So I agreed to marry him." Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps interrupted the tense moment. The old farmer appeared, his face twisted with anger. "There you are, girl!" he shouted, his voice loud and harsh. "What are you doing here, wasting time? You promised to marry me today, and I'm not waiting any longer." Lily flinched, her whole body trembling as the old man's angry eyes glared down at her. He stepped closer, pointing a rough finger at her. "If you don't marry me right now, I'll have you thrown back in jail. Do you hear me? "Come back to the altar now," the old farmer yelled, his voice echoing. "Let's finish this wedding," he sneered. Lily stood frozen, tears still on her cheeks. Just as the tension grew, Alex spoke up calmly. "How much is the debt?" The old farmer crossed his arms, his eyes narrowing. $115,000, he said gruffly, expecting no one to be able to pay that amount. Without hesitation, Alex pulled out his phone and asked for the old man's bank account number. The farmer, surprised but skeptical, gave it to him. Alex transferred the money right there and then. A moment later, the old farmer's phone beeped, and he looked down in shock. "Your debt is paid," he muttered, still in disbelief. "You're free." Everyone stood in stunned silence. Lily's classmates couldn't believe what had just happened. Alex, the same boy who had been mocked. Lily, who had once been humiliated by Alex, was now freed from her debt. It was as if the world had turned upside down. "Thank you, Alex," Lily whispered, her voice full of shame and gratitude. But Alex's face remained serious. "Don't thank me yet," he interrupted. "You'll pay me back that money, but in a different way." Lily's heart skipped a beat, confused by what he meant. "You'll work as a cleaner in my house for 10 months, Alex continued, his voice firm. Lily froze, her mouth slightly open in shock. "You start next week," Alex said, tossing a piece of paper with his address at her feet. Before she could say another word, Alex turned and walked away, heading toward his car. The rest of the classmates, still in shock, followed him as he drove off. Lily stood there, her emotions all tangled up inside. She was humiliated, standing alone outside the church, but at the same time, she felt a strange sense of relief. At least she was free from the old farmer's hold. She looked down at the paper with Alex's address and sighed deeply as the cars disappeared down the road. Lily wiped her tears, standing in the quiet village, feeling the weight of her past mistakes, but also a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, things could be different now. 1 week later, Lily packed her bags and headed to Alex's house. She had never felt so nervous before. As the car drove closer, she thought about the Alex she used to know in high school, the one she had laughed at, the one she and her friends called fat and ugly. But now, everything was different. When the car stopped in front of the house, Lily's eyes widened in disbelief. Alex's house was huge, bigger than anything she had ever imagined. The tall gates, the beautiful flowers in the garden, and the shiny cars parked outside, all of it made her feel small. She took a deep breath and knocked on the door, her heart pounding. The door opened, and there he was, Alex. He sat on a soft, expensive-looking couch in a luxurious sitting room. The room sparkled with big windows letting in sunlight and fancy decorations everywhere. Lily could hardly believe her eyes. Alex was no longer the boy she had made fun of. He was handsome, strong, and confident. "Good afternoon, Alex," she greeted him, her voice shaky. Alex didn't smile. Instead, he looked at her with cold eyes and said, "From now on, don't call me Alex. Call me boss." Lily's heart sank. She knew this wasn't going to be easy. "Yes, boss," she whispered, feeling embarrassed. Just then Grace appeared. Grace was Alex's girlfriend now, and she looked beautiful and kind. "Hi, Lily." "Welcome," Grace said with a warm smile. Lily was surprised by Grace's kindness. She hadn't expected that after everything. Grace helped her with her luggage, showing her to a small but cozy room in the house. As they walked, Grace chatted, trying to make Lily feel comfortable. But Lily felt heavy inside, thinking about how her life had turned upside down. Once a proud and spoiled girl, she was now starting her life as a cleaner. The next morning, Lily woke up early to begin her new job. She scrubbed the floors, cleaned the big windows, and made sure the house looked perfect. It was hard work, and her hands hurt from all the scrubbing, but she kept going. She had no choice. As she worked, she could hear Alex and Grace laughing in another room. Their happiness felt like a sharp reminder of her mistakes. She wiped her forehead and continued cleaning, trying not to think about how different her life was now. Every time Alex passed by, he barely looked at her. He didn't talk to her except to give orders, and when he did, his words were short and cold. Lily kept her head down and tried to do her job well, but deep down she knew this was the hardest part, seeing Alex happy and knowing she had once hurt him. One bright afternoon, Lily was busy cleaning the stairs when she heard Alex's voice. He had come home and he wasn't alone. "Lily," he called. "Yes, boss," she replied, hurrying down the stairs. "Please bring us some juice," he ordered. Lily quickly poured a glass of juice and rushed down, careful not to spill. But when she reached the room, she stopped suddenly, her heart pounding. Sitting on the couch was her high school ex-boyfriend, her first love, the boy she had left just days before prom, telling him he wasn't in her class anymore. Her ex barely seemed to recognize her at first, but then he squinted and softly said, "Lily." The glass slipped from Lily's hands and shattered on the floor, her face flushed and filled with shame. She ran, Alex's loud, mocking voice chasing after her. "Come back here, Lily." But she kept going, her heart pounding and her face hot with embarrassment. She rushed into her room, buried her face in her pillow and cried. She wished she could turn back time, change her past decisions. It hurt so much. She knew now that Alex had invited her ex on purpose just to make her feel small. Later that evening, as she tried to wipe her tears away, she went to find Alex. With tear-streaked cheeks, she asked him, "Alex, why are you doing this to me? Haven't you hurt me enough?" Alex sneered. "Don't call me Alex. Call me boss," he said coldly. "You're just reaping what you sowed," he added with a cruel smile before walking away, leaving Lily heartbroken. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Alex didn't ease up on her, not even a little. He seemed to take pleasure in making her life difficult. Every day was a new chore, a new demand, and every day Lily's heart grew heavier. She scrubbed floors, cleaned windows, did laundry. No task was too small or too grueling. Even on her birthday she received nothing but a pile of chores. Only Grace, Alex's girlfriend, remembered. She gave Lily a tiny cupcake with a single candle. Lily smiled through her tears, grateful for the small kindness. That night, as she lay in bed, she thought of her past birthdays. The times her adopted parents would surprise her with gifts, the trips to the beach, the laughter, the love. She longed for those days, for the warmth of their embrace, for the feeling of being cherished. But those days were gone, and all she had now was this cold, empty life under Alex's control. 10 long months had passed since Lily first stepped into Alex's house as a servant. She'd worked hard every day, quietly doing her tasks, dreaming of the day she could finally leave and start fresh. Now that day had arrived, and Lily's heart was a mixture of happiness and fear. She was finally free from the endless work and cold stares, but there was a problem. She had nowhere to go. The thought of returning to the small, lonely village she had left behind made her heart sink. But she knew she had no other choice. With a heavy sigh, Lily packed her few belongings, neatly folding her clothes and placing them carefully in her old bag. She looked around her small room one last time, memories flooding her mind. Taking a deep breath, she walked to the living room where Alex and his girlfriend Grace were sitting. She hesitated, then gathered her courage. "Thank you, Alex," she said softly, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm leaving now." Alex looked up, his face surprisingly calm. Grace gave her a small nod and smile, but Alex didn't say anything, which made Lily feel even more nervous. She turned to leave, clutching her bag tightly. Just as she reached the door, Alex called out, "Lily." She froze, her heart pounding as she turned around. Alex's tone was soft, almost gentle, which was so unlike him. "We have a surprise for you," he said with a calm voice, his eyes meeting hers. Lily's heart raced and she couldn't believe her ears. A surprise? She stood there in shock, wondering what it could be. Alex nodded toward one of the doors in the room. "Come out," he said. Lily's eyes widened as the door slowly opened. Then, stepping out of the shadows, were two people she thought she'd never see again, her adopted parents. Her mouth fell open, her eyes filled with tears. "Mom? Dad?" Without another thought, Lily dropped her bag and ran to them. Her heart was bursting with emotions. She hugged them tightly, holding on as if she'd never let go. "I'm so sorry," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "I hurt you both. I was so foolish. Please, please find it in your hearts to forgive me." Her voice broke as she sobbed, guilt and relief overwhelming her. Her mother stroked her hair, her own eyes filled with tears. "It's okay, Lily," she said gently, her voice filled with love. "You did hurt us, but it's all in the past now. We're here for you, and we've missed you every single day." Her father wrapped his arms around her, his face soft with forgiveness. "We love you, Lily, and we're so happy to have you back," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. Alex watched the reunion. His usual stern expression was replaced with something softer, almost warm. He cleared his throat, looking away as if trying to hide his feelings. Lily, wiping her tears, looked at him in disbelief. It was then that she learned Alex had gone to her parents, pleading with them to forgive her. He had shown them videos of her working hard around the house, proving how much she had changed. Even though Lily had hurt Alex in the past, he couldn't bear the thought of her returning to a life of loneliness in that remote village. He wanted something better for her, a chance for her to start anew. Lily's heart swelled with gratitude and shock. She never thought Alex would go so far for her. Tears welled up in her eyes again as she whispered, "Thank you, Alex. I don't know how to thank you enough." Grace helped Lily's parents carry her bags to the car, ready to take her home. But just as they were about to drive off, Lily felt an urge to say one last goodbye. She ran out of the car, her heart full of emotions, and threw her arms around Alex in a tight hug. "Thank you so much, Alex," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. Alex, trying to keep his composure, patted her back, his eyes betraying a hint of emotion. "Be a good girl, Lily," he advised softly, his voice warm. "Take care of yourself." As Lily got back into the car and they drove away, she watched Alex standing there, a bittersweet smile on his face. She waved to him until he was out of sight. Her heart felt lighter than it had in years. For the first time in a long time, Lily felt like she was truly going home, not just to her family, but to a new life filled with hope, forgiveness, and second chances. She had been given a fresh start, and as she looked out at the open road, she knew she would make the most of it.